The Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Montana protect three main things: life, liberty, and property. Today's presentation, we're going to be talking about zoning, UN Agenda 21, growth policies, land use planning, sustainable development, and how all of these things tie together in order to steal your life, liberty, and property. I'm doing this in order to urge everybody around the country to take their constitutional right of property back from our government. If you would like to utilize this presentation in this way that I've just described, you may do so. What is property? First thing is we have to define the definition of property. And a lot of people might think that property is only the land or the home or the business that they have title to. But property is really a huge scope. It includes your mind, your body, the benefit of the labor from your hands, which is one of the definitions John Locke would use. It means your money. It means anything you've created through labor of your hands. In your mind, you might have thought of a business model and then put it into place. Well, that's your property. You've heard of intellectual property. All of those things are property. Now, zoning might specifically target a lot of land or real estate or businesses. But when we get a little bit further into this presentation, you'll see that they want to go after all of your property, not just your land. Karl Marx, he critiqued Locke's theory of property because he was against private property use. He's the father of communism. And anyways, what makes us great as Americans is our ability to own property. For the first time in the history of the world, the average citizen had say over his mind, his body, his money, his property, and it created this boom. America became a superpower. It became the most industrialized country in the whole entire world. We had the most advances in science and technology that we've ever had. And this was all based on giving the ability to the American citizen to have the fruits of his labor, instead of just working without incentive for the king or for some other tyrannical form of government. 10 Planks of the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. Karl Marx is considered to be the father of communism, and he wrote a book, the Communist Manifesto, and in this book he lays out 10 planks that you need in order to be a communist country. I spend a lot of time talking about plank number 2 and number 5 in my Federal Reserve presentation, which I would highly recommend you take a look at. But as I went down through these 10 different planks, I suddenly realized, wow, we are pretty much a communist country. But what we're going to focus on today is number 1 and number 10, abolition of private property and the application of all rent to public purpose. Now, this is really the backbone of communism, is that the government owns all of the property. Through regulation, they've just about accomplished this. And with the property tax, of course, you never own your property, so you've always got it mortgaged out to the government, so there's no way to really have it paid off. And then, of course, that property tax is rent, and it's always given to public purpose. In fact, it funds the plank number 10 of the Communist Manifesto, which is free education for all children in government schools. So basically they've mortgaged our property, taken complete control over it, and then they use the application of the rent to give our children education in free government schools. The reason they want to do this is because if they have control of your children, they can teach them anything they want. You're off working. Most families are two-parent working families. I am fortunate enough I'm able to homeschool my children and teach them how to be business owners and salespeople and capitalists and constitutionalists. But, for example, during the growth policy repeal, I was fighting stream-side setbacks. And so while I was doing that, and I'm out educating adults about why they don't want stream-side setbacks, at the same time they built a full-size trailer that was a model of the Bitterroot River system. And so it had all the rivers and the creeks and everything, and the way they had it set up, they brought it to every school in Ravalli County, and they gave the children little houses, and they told the children, okay, put them anywhere you'd like to. So they put them inside the stream beds, of course, because they're children, and that looked like a great place to put a house. And so then they would wash the houses away and say, see, we need stream-side setbacks. So you see, even though we beat the stream-side setbacks, we beat it for now, and they're already trying to brainwash our children for 10, 12 years down the road. And I'm going to have to go re-educate all those children, and that's going to be a very hard task. So one of the things we need to do is get our children into some kind of a private or homeschool or church school in order to combat the communism and socialism and fascism that's being forced upon them all at an early age. And then we have the next part here, abolition of children's factory labor in its present form. Well, when I was 8 years old, I had 2 paper routes. And the neat thing about these paper routes is I had to be an independent contractor at the age of 8 years old. I was not actually hired. And so the paper would provide newspapers to me, but I had to purchase the papers from them. I would mark them up and sell them to my customers. So I was completely my own businessman at 8 years old. I had to sell my subscriptions, I had to deliver the papers, and I had to collect the money. And once I had the money, then I paid the newspaper for their newspapers, and anything that was left over was mine. So at an early age, I had a great example and the benefit of being in my own business. Now, I did go on to do different jobs after school, like working at the greenhouses for an hourly wage and those kind of things. But if you take a look at this, it's very interesting, because if your child is always in school and doing after-school programs and always being taught communism, and they never have to work for a living, they never get the discipline, they never learn any skills. And it's really hard now for a child to get a job until after they're 16 years old. Well, a lot of them still don't get it after 16 because they're wrapped up in sports or clubs at school or maybe little church things. But regardless, most children these days don't ever really work a real job. And then what are they told? As soon as you're out of high school, you take the summer off and then you go right to college. This is actually very interesting. And of course, now Obama says now he'd like all college to be free. Make sure that we can brainwash you just a little bit longer. So you go get your 4-year degree. It might take you 6 years to do it. And you use government grants and all those things in order to get your diploma. And then you finally get out of school and you have no skills whatsoever. Everything you've learned in your whole entire life has been theoretical. And so you turn to the government and you say, okay, well, I did everything you said. Where's my paycheck? Where's my job? And some people do go to work, but it's more of an entitlement attitude, and they don't really have any skills. And so for those who aren't really successful, of course, there's the welfare system and all these other things that are there to support them. So they're really ready for the communism because they've never learned any of the principles that I had the benefit of learning at 8 years old being an independent contractor.